The rice hit the marble floor before Nkechi realised she had dropped it. Bulgog ice scattered across white stone. The lunch she spent an hour preparing. Deathy lunch she thought might make him smile again after everything. But her husband was not hungry. He had his secretary pressed against his desk, her skirt hiked up around her thighs, his lips on her throat, his hands in places that used to belong to his wife. Welcome back to Mafia Romance Stories. I'm Elizabeth, your storyteller. I've written another intense one for you today, so grab your snacks, get cosy, and let's fall into this story together. 3 days ago, Nkechi lost their baby. His baby. The one he beat out of her. And now this. Dong-hun looked UP, saw her standing in the doorway, and do you know what HE said? "Don't make a scene, Nkechi. Don't make a scene," as if she was the problem, as if her bleeding on the bathroom floor last week was just an inconvenience. As if 18 years of bruises and apologies and promises meant nothing at all. Something inside her snapped. Before we go any further, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Because what this stranger did next, what Nkechi discovered about her husband D, you will never see it coming. Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you are watching from and what at time it is. Now let us rewind, just a little. To 30 minutes before Nkechi's world fell apart. The security guard at Shinwoo Pharmaceuticals smiled when he saw her walk through the revolving doors. "Mrs. Shin," he said warmly, "always so thoughtful." Enka forced a smile, the kind she had perfected over 18 months of marriage. The kind that hid bruises. She stepped into the private elevator and pressed the button for the 10th floor. The doors slid closed, and she caught her reflection in the polished meaty EL. She barely recognised herself anymore, dark circles under her eyes, cheekbones sharper than they used to be, 15 pounds lighter since the wedding, not from dieting, from stress, from walking on eggshells. The elevator climbed. Nkechi rehearsed what she would say. Maybe they could talk. Maybe things could get better. The memory hit her without warning. 8 months into the marriage, she had burned the rice. Such a small thing. But Dong-hoon came home drunk that night, and the smell of scorched grain sent him over the edge. His hand connected with her face before she even saw it coming. She remembered the shock more than the pain, the way her ears rang, the way she hit the kitchen counter on her way down. Then the tears came. His ears. He dropped to his knees, gathering her in his arms, sobbing apologies. "I am so sorry. It will never happen again. I love you." Tea next morning, 2 Ozen roses arrived. Red ones, her favourite. She believed him. She always believed him. The elevator Orzo penned. Nkechi stepped onto the 10th floor and walked down the long hallway toward her husband's corner off ice. Most of the employees were at lunch. The floor was quiet except for the hum of computers and the distant ring of phones. Then she heard it. Laughter. A woman's laughter. High and musical. Coming from behind Dong-hoon's frosted glass door. Nkechi's footsteps slowed. Her heart began to pound. Maybe it was a client. Maybe it was a colleague. Maybe there was a perfectly innocent explanation. But something in her gut knew better. Something that had been warning her for months. The late nights. The business trips that did not add up. The perfume on his collar that was not hers. She stopped outside the door. It was slightly open. Just a crack. Just enough. She pushed it wider, and her world ended. Dong-hoon had a woman bent backward over his mahogany desk. Young, beautiful, long black hair spilling across quarterly reports. His secretary, the one who always smiled too brightly when Nkechi visited, the one who called her Mrs. Shin with just a hint of mockery. Yuna. Her name was Yuna, and right now, Yuna had her fingers tangled in Dong-hoon's hair while his mouth worked its way down her neck. The insulated bag slipped through Nkechi's fingers. It hit the floor with a soft thud. Rice and maya tea scattered across marble. Both of them looked up. For one frozen moment, nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Then Dong-hoon straightened his tie. Yuna slid off the desk and smoothed her skirt. Neither of them looked ashamed. Yuna even smirked. "What are you doing here?" Dong-hoon's voice was flat, annoyed, like she was the problem. Nkechi could not speak, could not breathe, could not process what her eyes were telling her brain. "I asked you a question." He stepped toward her. "What are you doing at my office in the middle of the day?" 3 days. The words came out broken, barely a whisper. "It has been 3 days since I lost our baby, and you are here with HR." Dong-hoon's expression flickered. Just for a second, something the tea might have been guilt. Then it was gone. "Lower your voice, he said. "This is MY place of business." "Your place of business?" Nkechi's voice rose. Shiko will not stop it, did not want to stop it. "You beat me until I bled. You killed our child, and you want me to lower my voice?" Dong-hoon moved fast. He always moved fast when he was angry. He grabbed her arm and yanked her close, his fingers digging into the same spot he had bruised last week. "I said lower your voice." His breath was hot against her ear. "Or I will give you something to really cry about." Nkechi looked into his eyes. The eyes she had fallen in love with in a hospital cafeteria in Baton Rouge. The eyes that had promised her the world. There was nothing there, nothing human, nothing that had ever loved her. He yanked her arm free in Oran. She did not wait for the elevator. He flew on the stairwell and descended 10 flights in a blur of tears. Her chest burned, her legs shook. Her vision swam with grief and rage and 18 months of suppressed screaming. She burst through the lobby door and kept running. She did not see him until she crashed directly into his chest. Strong hands caught her arms before she hit the ground, steadied hot air, held her upright when her own legs refused to cooperate. I looked up the rough, tear-blurred eyes. The man holding her was taller than Dong-hoon. His face was angular and striking with sharp cheekbones and dark eyes that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. He wore a black coat over a charcoal suit, simple but clearly expensive. She could see the edges of intricate tattoos creeping above his collar, disappearing beneath his jaw. He was looking at her the way no one had looked at her in 18 months, like he actually saw her. "Behind her," the elevator chimed. The douar slid a pen. Dong-hoon stepped out, his eyes scanning the lobby. When he spotted Nkechi, his face twisted with anger. When he spotted the man holding her, the anger vanished. It was replaced by something she had never seen on her husband's face before. Terror, pure, undiluted to raw. "Kim Seojun," Dong-hoon whispered, and Nkechi realized he had just stumbled into something far more dangerous than a cheating husband. The stranger's grip was firm but not painful, nothing like Dong-hoon's hands. These hands were holding her up, not ushing her down. These hands felt like safety, and Nkechi could not remember the last time anything had felt safe. Kim Seojun studied her face with unsettling intensity. His eyes moved from the tear-track S on her cheeks to the smeared mascara beneath her lashes to the fading bruise near her jawline that 3 layers of foundation could no to quite hide. "Are you hurt?" His voice was low, controlled. His Korea N was refined, the accent of someone educated at the finest schools, someone who had never worried about money or status or survival. Nkechi shook her head and tried to pull away from his grasp. I am fine. I am sorry for bumping into you. I need to go. You are not fine. It was not a question. She froze, looked up at him, really looked. No one had said those words to her in 18 months. Not her co-workers at the hospital before she quit. Not the few friends she had made in Seoul before Dong-hoon isolated her from all of them. Not even the nurses who treated her after the miscarriage. The ones who saw the bruises and said nothing because her husband's family WAS too powerful. Everyone pretended not to see. This Emin saw. The memory crashed over her like a wave she could not escape. 3 nights ago, the bathroom floor, cold tile against her cheek, blood spreading beneath her in a dark pool. Paein ripping through her abdomen in waves that made her scream into the silence. Dong-ho on Standy Young in the doorway, his face pale, his eyes wide, not with concern for her, with fear for himself. Clean yourself up, he had said. We will go to the hospital, tell them you fell down the stairs. She had lost their baby, his baby, and his first thought was covering his tracks. Standing in the lobby now, held up rig 8 by a stranger with tattooed hands and cold eyes, Nkechi started crying again. Not the silent tears she had trained herself to shed, not the quiet sobs she muffled into pillows so Dong-hoon would not hear and get angry. These were deep, racking sobs that came from somewhere primal. Somewhere she had buried so deep she forgot it existed. She cried for the baby she lost. She cried for the woman she used to be. She cried for 18 months of bruises and apologies and flowers that arrived like clockwork after every beating. She cried, and the stranger did not speak. He did not offer empty comfort, did not tell her everything would be okay. Why? Did not ask questions or make demands. He simply stood here, solid and calm, his presence an anchor in the storm of her grief. When her sobs finally quieted, he reached into his coat and produced a handkerchief. Real cloth, monogrammed with initials she could not read. Expensive, like everything else about Hayam. Nkechi took it, wiped her face, tried to remember how to breathe. I do not know why I did that, she said. Her voice was raw, broken. You must think I am crazy. I think someone has hurt you. His eyes held hers. And I think you have been carrying that pain alone for a very long time. The words hit her somewhere deep. Somewhere he had protected with walls and lies and forced smiles. She heard herself whisper, My husband, I caught him, upstairs, with another woman. Kim Seo-jun's jaw tightened. It was subtle, barrel imperceptible, but she caught it. Your husband is Shin Dong-hoon. Not a question, a statement, like he already knew the answer. Nkechi's heart stuttered. You know him? Something flickered in those dark eyes, something dangerous, something that made the temperature in the lobby drop 10 degrees. I know what he is. Before she could ask what that meant, the elevator doors across the lobby slid open with a soft chime. Dong-hoon stepped out. His eyes swept the lobby, searching. When they landed on Nkechi, his facet twisted with familiar rage. When they landed on the man standing beside her, the rage drained away. What replaced it was something she had never seen before. Fear, real fear. The kind that makes grown men forget how to speak, the kind that turns powerful executives into trembling children, the kind that Dong-hoon had made her feel every day for 18 months. Kim Seo-jun. Dong-hoon's voice cracked on the name. What are you doing here? The stranger did not answer immediately. He released Nkechi's arms and turned to face her husband with the unhurried calm of a predator who knows his prey cannot escape. I had business in the building. Business? Dong-hoon was trying to sound authoritative, failing. This is Shinwoo property. You have no business here. And yet, Seo-jun's voice was silk prepared around steel. Here I am. Nkechi watched her husband's hands shake, watched sweat bead on his forehead, watched the man who had terrorized her for 18 months crumble in the presence of the stranger. Who was Kim Seo-jun? What kind of man could make Shin Dong-hoon afraid? Whatever she told you, Dong-hoon Surrey-D, gesturing toward Nkechi, she is emotional. She does not understand. There has been a misunderstanding. She told me nothing. Seo-jun took one step closer to Dong-hoon. Just one. But the effect was immediate. Dong-hoon stumbled backward like he had been shoved. She did not have to tell me anything. Seo-jun's voice dropped. Quiet, deadly. I have seen enough BR Oaken women to recognize one, and I have known you long enough to know exactly what kind of man you are, Shin Dong-hoon. The lobby had gone completely silent. Security guards stared at their screens like their lives depended on it. Employees who had been crossing the space were frozen in pea lace. No one moved. No one breathed. Everyone knew something terrible was about to happen, and no one was going to stop it. Nkechi had seen Dong-hoon angry. He had seen him drunk. Violent, cruel in ways that still woke her up screaming, but she had never seen him a fatra aid until now. Her husband stood in his own lobby, surrounded by his own employees, trembling like a child caught stealing. Kim Seo-jun had not raised his voice, had not made threats. He simply radiated a quiet menace that filled the entire space. This is between me and my wife. Dong-hoon tried to sound like the powerful executive he pretended to be. You have no right to interfere. I have every right. Seo-jun's words were soft, almost gentle. That made them terrifying. Or have you forgotten who I am? Forgotten what you owe me? Dong-hoon's face went grey. Whatever de Seo-jun referenced was enough to drain the last colour from his ski seamed. Nkechi watched with growing confusion. Her husband owed this man something? In 18 months, Dong-hoon Hadi never meant Yoned Ki Seo-jun. Her grandmother's voice echoed in her memory. Grandma Ruth, back in Baton Rouge, braiding young Nkechi's hair. A good man changes everything, baby girl. When you find on air, hold on tight. Marriage is not about perfect. It is about staying. Nkechi had believed those words, had stayed it through the first slap, the second, the 10th, had stayed through black eyes and a baby bleeding out of her on a cold bathroom floor. She stayed because Grandma Ruth said staying was strength. But watching her husband see hour before this stranger, Nkechi realised the truth. Staying was not strength when staying was killing you. Whatever you think you know, Dong-hoon said, his voice rising with desperation, you are wrong. Nkechi is my wife, my family. This is none of your concern. None of my concern? Seo-jun took another step forward. Dong-hoon took 2 steps back. A woman runs through your lobby in tears, bruises barely hidden under makeup, terror in her eyes, and you tell me it is none of my concern? She fell. The lie came automatically. She is clumsy, always has been. She fell. Seo-jun repeated the words like they tasted bitter. Is that also how she lost the baby? She fell. Dong-hoon's mouth opened, closed. He had no answer. How did Seo-jun know about the baby? How did he know any of this? Who told you that? Dong-hoon whispered. Who have you been talking to? No one told Emmy anything. Seojun's gaze was ice. I have been watching you for 5 years, Shin Dong-ho-on, waiting for the right moment, gathering evidence, documenting every lie, every crime, every woman you have destroyed. 5 years? Nkechi's mien raced. What had happened 5 years ago? She and Dong-hoon had only been married for 18 months. They had only known each other for 2 years. What did this stranger know that she did not? Seo Jun-ti earned to look at her, the coldness in his eyes softened just slightly. Do you want to leave? The question hung in the air between them. Such a simple question. 4 words. Do you want to leave? But the W8 of it was enormous, the weight of 18 months. The weight of broken promises and broken bones, the weight of a baby who would never be born. Nkechi looked at her husband, the man who had courted her with Othello's and poetry, the man who had proposed in her grandmother's living room, promising G to make her happy forever, the man who had slowly, systematically taken everything from her, her career, her friends, her confidence, her childee. She looked at the stranger offering her an ESC ape, a man she did not know, a man who terrified her husband, a man with tight tattoos on his neck and danger in his eyes. She should be afraid of him. She was not. I want to leave. Her voice came out stronger than she expected, clear, rare, like something inside her had finally woken up. Dong-hoon lunged forward. Nkechi, do not you dare! You are my wife. You belong to me. Seo Jae-un stopped him with a single look. Speak to her again. His voice was barely above a whisper. And I will dismantle everything your family has built, every contract, every connection, every one to your name. I will erase you so completely that People will forget you ever existed. Dong-hoon opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again, no words coming out. Seo-jun extended his hand toward Nkechi. Shall we? She hesitated for only a moment. Then she placed her hand in his. His grip was warm, steady, nothing like the cold, crushing grip she had grown used to. Together they walked toward the lobby doors. Be he and them, Dong-hoon Sun-ud frozen, watching his wife leave with his worst enemy. Nkechi? His voice cracked. Nkechi, please, I love you. I can change. I swear I can change. She did not look back. The glass doors opened, and sunlight hit her face. Fresh air filled her lungs. For the first time in 18 months, Nkechi felt like she could breathe. A black Mercedes W waited at the curb. A driver stood beside it, opening the back door as they approached. Where are we going? Nkechi asked. Seo-jun guided her toward the CAR. Somewhere safe. She climbed inside. The leather seats were soft. The interior smelled like expensive cologne, and so methingy lace she could not identify. Po-wear, maybe. Secrets. Seo-jun slid in beside her. The door closed. The driver pulled away from the curb. Tihu-gi, the tinted window. Nkechi watched the Shinwoo building shrink in the distance. Her old life. Her old prison, gone, and she felt nothing but relief. Beth, or we continue. I need you to do something. Hit that subscribe button, write no W, turn on notifications. Because what Nkechi discovers about this stranger, the secret he has been hiding for 5 years, it will change everything. The black Mercedes glided through Seoul's neon-lit streets like a shark through dark water. Nkechi sat in the back seat, her hands folded in her lap, watching the city blur past her window. Restaurants and bars spilled light onto crowded sidewalks. Young couples walked arm in arm. Businessmen in expensive suits hailed cabs. Normal people living normal lives. She had forgotten what Norma L felt like. T man beside her had not spoken since they left T Shinwoo building. He sat W with his eyes forward, his posture relaxed but alert, like a predator at rest. She could feel the controlled power radiating off him, the same power that had made her husband shake like a leaf. "Where are you taking me?" Her voice sounded strange in the Sile NC, small, uncertain. Seo Jun turned to look at her. In the passing streetlights, his features shifted between shadow and illumination. "Wherever you want to go." He paused. "But if you have nowhere, I can offer you a safe place. No strings, no obligations, just AR room and time to figure out your next step." "Why would you do that?" The question came out sharper than she intended. "You do not know me. We have never met before today." He was quiet for a long moment, longy enough that Shai thought he would not answer. "Because someone should have done it for someone I loved." His voice was soft, heavy with something she could not identify. And they did not. Before she could ask what that meant, the car turned off the main road onto a narrow path that wound up into the mountains. The city lights fell away. Darkness closed in around them, broken only by the Mercedes's headlights cutting through tonight. They drove for 20 minutes. The road twisted and climbed, passing through gates that opened automatically at their approach. Security camera as tracked their Progre SS. Men in dark suits as toed at checkpoints, nodding as the car passed. Finally, they stopped. Nkechi stepped out of the car and caught her breath. The house before her was not a house. It was a traditional Korean est ate. A hanok, but massive. Ancient wooden beams and curved tile roofs. Stone pathway stairs winding the rough moonlit garden s. Paper lanterns glowing so eftly in the darkness. It looked like something from another century, hidden here among the mountains while modern Seoul glittered in the valley below. "This is where you live?" Seo Jun stepped beside her. "One of the places?" An older woman appeared at the main gate. She wore a simple grey dress, her silver hair pulled back in a neat bun. Her face was weathered but kind, with smile lines around her eyes that spoke of decades of warmth. "Madam Cha," Seojun said, "we have a guest. Please prepare the east room." The woman's eyes moved to Nkechi. Something flickered in them. Recognition? Sadness? It was gone before Nkechi could be sure. "Of course," Madam Cha bowed slightly. "This way, dear." Nkechi followed her through the estate, past courtyards filled with carefully tended gardens, past rooms with sliding paper doors, piasked guards who stood in shadows, watching everything. The east room was beautiful. Silk bedding on a low wooden frame, heated floors that warmed her feet through her Thien shoes, a window that looked out over moonlit mountains. Madam Cha brought tea, hot and fragrant, with a sweetness that soothed Nkechi's raw throat. "Rest," the older woman said. "You are safe here. Whatever happened before, it cannot reach you in this place." Then she was gone, and Nkechi was alone. She sat on the edge of the bed. Her hands were shaking. Her whole body was shaking. The adrenaline that had carried Acha through the afternoon was fading, leaving nothing but exhaustion and 1,000 unanswered questions. Who was Kim Seo-jun? Why did her husband fear him? What had happened 5 years ago that connected them? And why did she feel safer with this stranger than she had ever felt with the man who promised to love her forever? Sleep would not come. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Dong-hoon's face, heard DH's voice, felt his hands on her body, sometimes tender, more often cruel. She got up and walked to the window. The courtyard below W was silver with moonlight, empty, aceful. Then she saw him. Seo-jun stood near a stone fountain, his phone pressed to his ear. His voice carried on the night air. Faint B art audible through the sleekly open window. Yes, Shin Dong-hoon, I want everything. Every offshore account, every falsified contract, every bribe, every woman he has hurt. Nkeichi's breath caught. Every woman he has hurt before her. The words hit her like ice water. She was not the first. Her husband D had done the S before, hurt at her women, destroyed them, and the man who had saved her already knew. How long had he known? How long had he been watching? 5 years of evidence, Seo-jun continued. Every piece documented, every witness identified. When I am ready, there will be nothing left of Him, nothing left of his family, nothing left of everything they have built on other people's suffering. Nkeichi pressed her hand against the cold glass. 5 years. He had been building a casse against Dong-hoon for 5 years, watching him, documenting his crimes, waiting. And then she had crashed into him in that lobby. A broken woman running from her husband's office. Another victim to add to the file. Was that why he had helped her? Was she just evidence? Seo-jun ended the call. One of highest men approached and handed him something that glinted in the moonlight. A gun. He checked it with practiced ease, the smooth automatic movements of someone who had handled weapons his entire life. Then he tucked it into his waistband and disappeared into the shadows. Nkeichi stepped back from the window. She should run. Sethi should be terrified of this man, this place, this world she did not understand. He was dangerous. Everything about him screamed danger, but as she stood there, heart pounding, one question burned in her chest. Why did she feel safer with a stranger who carried a gun than she had ever felt with the husband who had promised to love her? Nkeichi woke to sunlight and silence. No alarm screaming at her to make breakfast, no footsteps pacing outside the douar, no tension coiling in her stomach, just warmth, just peace. Just the soft sound of birds singing. When was the last time he had woken up without fear? She could not remember. A soft K-knock came at the door. Madame Cha entered carrying a tray, warm rice porridge, side dishes, fresh fruit. "Good morning. I hope you slept well." Nkeichi sat up, suddenly awary of how she must look. Swollen eyes, tangled hair, smeared makeup. "I look terrible. You look like someone who survived something terrible." Madame Cha set the tray down. There is a difference. The kindness made Nkeichi's eyes burn with fresh tears. Madame Cha paused. Her eyes moved over Nkeichi's face with weighted memory. "You remind me of someone," she said softly, then caught herself. "Forgive me, it is not my place." She bowed and left before Nkeichi could ask what she meant. After breakfast, Nkeichi explored the estate. It was larger than it seemed in darkness. Courtyards opened onto courtyards. Gardens gave way to Garden S. A stone statue covered in moss. A koi pond. A meditation pavilion overlooking a misty valley. But she had also noticed security cameras on every roof. Guards patrolling in pairs. Heavy gates requiring codes. This was not just a home, it was a fortress. What kind of man needed this so much protection? She found her answer that evening. The library was on the 2nd floor. 3 walls of books, most in Korean or Chinese, the faux wreath Walwaresque glass looking out over the mountains as the sun set. Nkeichi stood at that window when she felt him enter. She did not hear footsteps, did know or hear the door. She simply knew she was no longer alone. "You have questions," she earned. Seo-jun stood in the doorway, Sho-ulder leaning against the frame. He wore dark pants and a grey sweater, that made him look both softer and more dangerous. "I have many questions," she admitted. "Ask them." "Who are you, really?" He did, Yin Ot rushed to answer. I am someone who builds empires in shadows. Someone powerful men fear, someone who has done terrible things for what I believed were a good reason ends. That is not an answer. No, it is a warning. I am not a good man, Nkechi, but I am not Dong-hoon either. She stepped toward him. Last night I heard you on the phone. You mentioned every woman Dong-hoon has hurt. What did you mean? His jaw tightened. For a moment she thought he would refuse. Then he pulled out a photograph. Nkesh, I studied it. A young woman in her early 20s, sharp cheekbones, dark eyes sparkling with life, a smile that lit up her face. She looked like him, same bone structure, same intensity. Her name was Seoyeon, my younger sister. Was, P asked tense. Nkechi's heart clenched. She knew that word. Them a terrible word that changed everything. She was 23 when she met Shin Dong-hoon. He was charming, attentive, everything a woman could want. His voice was flat, contro-led. Within 6 moments she changed, withdrawn, anxious. Stop calling me. Stop PD seeing friends. I did not understand why. Nkechi understood. She understood perfectly. She had lived it. When I found out what he was doing, I tried to intervene, but she protected him, the way victims do, the way you probably did. She could not deny it. She had lied for Dong-hoon, made excuses, covered bruises with makeup and smiles. She was 25 when she walked into the Han River. They found her body 3 days later. Thef-e photograph trembled in Nkechi's hands. A beautiful girl who would never grow old, never fall in love again, never have children or build a life or chase her dreams, because of Dong-hoon, because of the man Nkechi had married. I have been waiting 5 years to destroy him, gathering evidence, building a case, watching him marry you and knowing I was too late again. But you were not too late. The words came before she could stop them. You found me. His eyes met hers, dark, haunted, human beneath the ice. I could not save my sister. Maybe I can help save you instead. Can I ask you something? Have you ever taken someone's love for granted? Have you ever lost someone and wished you had paid closer attention? Drop a comment below. I need to know I'm not alone in this. Nkechi handed back the photograph. Their fingers brushed. Neither pulled away. Your sister was not his first, was she? And I am not his last. Seo-jun's expression hardened. The ice returned. No, you are not. But if I have anything to say about it, you will be his last victim. Ever. Nkechi held his gaze. How do we stop him? Something flickered in his eyes. Surprise or respect. Told there, if you are willing. Standing in the Fardinung light, surrounded by books she could not read, Nkechi made a decision N. She was done running, done hiding, done being a victim. I am willing. Tell me what to do. Seo-jun studied her, then nodded slowly. Good, because what happens next will be dangerous. More dangerous than Saint Ai-ying married to Dong-hoon? A ghost of a smile, different kind of dangerous, the kind where we faked back. Something stirred in her chest. Something she had not felt in 18 months. Hope. But before either could speak, Seo-jun's phone buzzed. He read the message, and his expression went cold. What is it? Your husband hired people to find you, mercenaries, the kind who do not ask questions. He pocketed the phone. They will move tonight. Fear shot through her. The OLD fear. What do we do? Seo-jun's eyes met hers, steady, calm, deadly. We let them come, and we show Shin Dong-hoon exactly who he is dealing with. Hope mixed with something darker now, something that wanted to see Dong-hoon pay for a very bruise, every lie, Every tear she had shed alone in the darkness, Sèche was not sure if that made her brave or broken. Maybe it made her both, but one thing was certain. She was not Titi's same woman who had walked into that office this morning with a bag of bulgogi and desperate hope in her heart. That woman was gone, and whoever was taking her place was ready to fight. Dong-hoon hurled his phone across the penthouse. It shattered against the floor-to-ceiling window W's overlooking Seoul. 50 million won-wort H of imported Italian marble beneath his feet. A view that made lesser men weep with envy. And none of it mattered because his wife had walked out of his building with Kim Seo-jun. Kim Seo-jun, of all the people in Seoul, of all the men she could have run into, it had to be High-M. The phone on his disc K rang, his fat hers private line. D.O. Nung-hoon S stared at it for 3 rings before picking up. "What the hell have you done?" His father's voice was ice. No greeting, no warmth, just cold fury that made Dong-hoon feel like a child again, saintening in his father's study, waiting to be punished. "Father, I can explain—" "Explain what? That you let your wife leave with Kim Seo-jun? That you stood in your own lobby and watched them walk out together?" "I did not let her do anything. She just— Do you have any idea who that man is?" His father's voice dropped to something dangerous. "Kim Seo-jun controls half the underground economy of this country. Politicians answer to him. Judges answer to him. Police commissioners take his calls before they take mine." Dong-hoon's hand tightened on the receiver. "He is just a criminal, a thug with M1E. He is the most powerful man in South Korea, and you let him walk out of your building with evidence of your incompetence." Evidence. The word hit Dong-hoon L like a slap. Inkechi knew things. S, he had seen things. The bruises. T, he had hospital visits. The baby. If she talked. "I will handle it," Dong-hoon said. "I will get her back." "How? Kim Seo-jun has her now? You cannot touch her?" "I have resources." A long pause. When his father spoke again, his voice was different. Careful, almost afraid. "Listen to me very carefully, son. The Shin family has debts to Seo-jun's organization. Financial debts, politic BTS, debts that go back to your grandfather's time. If those sea debts are called in, everything we have built will collapse." Dong-hoon felt the blood drain from his face. What kindi of debts? The kind that can never be repaid, the kind that men like Seo, Jae-young collect in blood. H, his father exhaled. "Whatever you are thinking about doing, do not do IT. Let the woman go. Find another wife. Forget this happened." "I cannot just—" "You can, and you will. Unless you want to destroy this family." The line went dead. Dong-hoon stood in the darkness of his penthouse, rage building in his chest like a storm. His father wanted him to let Inkechi go. To pretend she did not exist? To let Kim Seo-jun win? No. She was his wife, his property. She did not get to leave him. She did not get to embarrass him in front of H's employees, his building, his city. He would get her back K. And when he did, she would learn what happened to women who tried to run. The bedroom door opened behind him. Yuna stepped toward, wrapped in on E of his silk robes. Her hair was messy, her lipstick smeared. "Oppa, what is happening? I heard yelling." Dong-hoon turned to look at her, this woman who had caused all of this, if she had not been in his office. If Inkechi had not walked in at that exact moment. "Get out." Yuna blinked. "What?" "I said get out." He moved toward her, and she stumbled backward. "This is your fault. If you had not been there, none of this would have happened. You invited me there. You said your wife would never know. And now she knows everything." He grabbed her arm, squeezed until she whimpered. Get your things and get out of my apartment, T. You are fur-ed. Do not come back to the office. Do no T call me. Do not speak to anyone a be out what happened here. He shoved her toward the B bedroom. She caught herself on the doorframe, her eyes filling with tears. Dong-hoon, please. Now. She fled. Dong-hoon waited until he heard the front door slam. Then he walked to his desk and opened the Bo Ti-tom drawer. Inside was a burner phone, a number programmed into it that he had hoped Nev ER to use. He dialed. 3 rings. A voice answered. Low, professional, no accent he could identify. This is Shin Dong-hoon. I need someone found D. That depends on who. My wife. She left with a man earlier today. I need H.E.R. brought back, quietly. Where is she now? She is with Kim Seo-jun. Silence. Long enough that D. Ong-hoon thought the call had dropped. That will cost you, triple my usual rate. Done. And you understand the risks? Seo-jun is not someone we take lightly. I understand. Just get her back. It will be Donnie tonight. The line went dead. Dong-hoon set down the phonee and walked to the window. Seoul glittered below him like a carpet of diamonds. His city, his kingdom. Nkechi thought she had escaped. She thought Kim Seo-jun could protect her. She was wrong. What Dong-hoon did not know was that Kim Seo-jun had eyes everywhere, including inside Dong-hoon's own network. Across the city, in a compound hidden in the mountains, a guard approached Seo-jun with a tablet. Sir, we intercepted a call from Shin Dong-hoon. He has hired mercenaries. Seo-jun did not look up from the document he was reading. How many? 3. They will move tonight. Seo-jun set down the paper. His eyes moved toward the guest quarters where Nkechi was sleeping. Let them come. 3 DAS passed at the mountain estate. 3 days of quiet mornings and peaceful nights. 3 days without raised voices or clenched fists or fear coiling in her stomach every time she heard footsteps. Nkechi had almost forgotten what peace felt like. Madame Cha woke her each morning with tea and breakfast. See MPL meals prepper read with care. The older woman never asked questions about the bruises that were finally fading or the nightmares that still jolted Nkechi awake in the dark. She just brought tea and food and small kindnesses that made Nkechi want to weep. Annyeonghaseyo, Nkechi said on the 3rd morning, practicing the Korean greeting Madame Cha had taught her. The housekeeper's face lit up. Very good. Your PR on Unchashan is improving. I had a good teacher. Madame Cha waved away the compliment, but Nkechi could see she was pleased. Over the past few days, the older woman had shared fragments of stories about the estate, about Seo-jun. He was a serious child, she said once, pouring more tea. Always watching, always thinking. His father used to say he had an old soul. And his sister, Nkechi asked carefully. Seo-yeon? Madame Cha's hands stilled. For a moment, grief flickered across her weathered face. She was light. Wherever she went, laughter followed. When she died... The housekeeper shook her head. Something in him died too. He became harder, colder, focused only on one thing. Revenge? Justice, Madame Cha at her eyes. There is a difference. Those times it is hard to see. Nkechi thought about that as she explored the estate. The compound was beautiful, but also clearly a fortress. Guards patrolled the perimeter. Security cameras watched every angle. Navigates required codes that changed daily. She found a garden behind the main house, overgrown and neglected. Without a skiing permission, she began pulling weeds, clearing G space for the flowers. Their tea struggled beneath the cowes. It felt good to make something grow instead of watching things else die. Seo Jun was often absent during the DI's busy nest, she assumed. The kind OF business that required armed guards and encrypted phones. She did no tea ask, and he did not off-air. But in the evenings he found her. On the fourth night, he discovered her in the kitchen. She had raided the pantry looking for anything that reminded her of home. Tomatoes, onions, rice, some spices that were close enough to what she needed. She was stirring a pot when she felt him watching from the doorway. "What is that?" She glanced over her shoulder. He was leaning against the frame, arms crossed, almost tea, smiling. She had never seen him almost smile before. "Jollof rice, or my attempt at it. Comfort tea food from Louisiana." She lifted the wooden spoon. "Want to help?" Something shifted in his expression. Surprise, maybe. As if no one had asked him to do something so ordinary in a very long time. "I do not know how to cook." "Then I will teach you." He pushed off the doorframe, and walked toward her, rolled up his sleeves. Stood beside her at the stove, close enough that she could smell his cologne, cedar and something darker, expensive and clean. "What do I do?" She handed him the spoon, Saint-Hilaire, "and do not let it burn." He stirred with the same focused intensity he brought to everything, too serious for cooking. She laughed before she could stop herself. The sound D surprised them both. "I have not heard you laugh before," he said quietly. "I have not had much reason to laugh." She adjusted his grip on the spur on. "Lighter, you are cooking rice, not interrogating it." The almost smile returned. "I am better at interrogating." "I believe that." They cooked together in calm, forcible silence. She added spices while he stirred. Their hands brushed, reaching for the same bowl. Neither pulled away. When the food was ready, they ate at the small kitchen table instead of the formal dining room. It felt intimate, real, like something normal people did. "Tell me something about yourself," she said. "Something true." He considered the question. "I was raised to inherit my father's empire, trained from childhood, languages, combat, strategy, everything I would need to lead." "Did you want to?" "No." The word was simple, hon est. "I wanted to be a teacher, literature, poetry, things that made sense of the world." Nkechi stared at him. This man with blood on his hands and an empire in shadows wanted to teach poetry why. "What happened?" "My father died, my sister died, and suddenly there was no choice any more. She understood that. The way life made choice S for you. The way dreams got buried under duty and survival. "I wanted to be a nurse who made a difference," she said. "Grand Emma Ruth raised Me to believe in helping people. I went to school, worked double shifts, sent money home. And then I met Dong-hoon, and somehow I ended up trapped in a penthouse in Seoul for forgetting how to be human." Seo-jun set down his fork. His eyes held hers with an intensity that made her breath catch. "You are still human, Nkechi. He did not take that from you." "Sometimes I am not sure." "I am." He reached across the table. His fingers brushed hers, light, questioning. "You survived. You foul het. You ran. Those are not the actions of someone who has forgotten how to be human." "Love cannot save you," she said quietly. "I used to believe it could, but it cannot." "No," he agreed, "it cannot. But the right person can remind you that you are worth saving yourself." Their eyes held something shifted between them, something fragile and new. Then his phone buzzed. Seo-jun glanced at the screen. His XPR Eschen shuttered instantly. The warmth vanished, replaced by cold calculation. "What is it?" Nkechi asked. He stood. The man who had been stirring rice and almost smiling was gone. In his place, W, as the man who made her husband tremble. Dong Hoon's men, they are moving tonight. Earl higher than expected. Fear shot through Ugher, the old Effir, the familiar fear. What do we do? He looked at her, and for the first time she saw something like fear in his eyes too, not for himself, for her. Stay in your roam, lock the door, and whatever you hear, do not call me out. Midnight-y, the estate was silent, the kind of silence that felt wrong, too heavy, too complete, like the world was holding its breath. Nkechi lay in bed, eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling. She'd locked her door like Seo-jun told her to. Puss had a HEV dresser in front of it for good measure, found a ceramic vase that felt solid enough to use as a weapon. Then she waited. Hours passed, nothing happened. The silence stretched on. Maybe IT was a false alarm. Maybe Dong-hoon's mercenaries had gotten lost. Maybe they had seen the E-guards patrolling the perimeter and decided the job was not worth the money. Maybe she was safe. She started to relax, started to close her eyes. G-Lass shattered somewhere downstairs, and Nkechi sat up, her heart slamming against her ribs. She strained to hear over THE, blood pounding in her ears. Footsteps, multiple, moving fast across the first floor. This was Ria L. This was happening. A woman's voice, Madam Cha, shouting in Korean. Then a thud, then silence. Nkechi's hands shook as she gripped the vase. The footsteps were on the stairs now, heavy boots on ancient wood, coming closer. She should hide. She should crawl under the bed, or squeeze into the closet, or find some way to disappear. But her body would not move. Fear had frozen her in PL Ace. The doorknob rattled, a voice outside. Male. Speaking Korean she could not understand. Then the door exploded inward. The dresser she had pushed against it skidded across the floor. 3 men poured into the room. Black masks, military gear. They moved with professional efficiency, spreading out to cover all exits. Nkechi swung the vase at the first one. It connected with his shoulder. He grunted, stumbled, but did not fall. The second man grabbed her arm and twisted it besh in her back. Pain shot through her shoulder. She screamed. Quiet. His English was accented, cold. Shin Dong-hoon sends his regards. They dragged her toward the door. She fought, kicked, clawed at their arms. But there were 3 OF them and 1 of her, and they had won this before, down the stairs. Across the main hall, Madame Charlai crumpled near the kitchen door, not moving. Is she? Shut up. The man holding her tishti tightened his grip. Keep walking. They reached the back exit. One of the mercenaries pushed open the door, and then the lights went out. Complete darkness. The kind that swallowed ever ye thing. A sound cut through the black. Wet. Udden. Final. The man on her left dropped. The other 2 real eased here, reaching for weapons. She heard them moving, heard the click of safeties being switched off. They never got the chance to fire. Seo-jun moved through the darkness like shadow given form. Nkechi could not see him, but she heard the impact. Bone against bone, gasping breath, bodies hitting the floor. It lasted less than 30 seconds. The lights flickered back on. Seo-jun stood over 3 unconscious men. His knuckles were bleeding. His shirt was torn. His breathing was steady, as if he had just finished a casual walk instead of dismantling 3 armed mercenaries. His eyes found hers. Are you hurt? Nkechi tried to speak. No words came. She shook her head, still trembling. He crossed to her in 3 strides. His bloodied hands cupped her face with a gentleness that made her chest ache. His thumbs wiped she did not know she was crying. He will never touch you again. His voice was raw, fierce. I swear it on my sister's grava. Standing there, surrounded by unconscious men, an attered glass S, Nkechi believed him. For the first time since she had arrived in Seoul, she believed someone's promise completely. If you believe every woman deserves someone who will fight for her like this, hit that like button right now. Share this with someone who needs to hear that it is never too late to leave. And stay with me because what happens next changes everything. One of the Masena Rise Gyar owned tried to rise, Seo Jun's foot pressed down on his chest, pinning him to the floor. Hai's expression was calm, too calm, the kind of calm that terrified men who knew what it meant. Who sent you? The man spat blood, tried to sound defiant. You know who? I want to hear you say it. Shin Dong-hoon. The mercenary's voice wavered. He wants his property back. Property. The word hung in the air, like poison. Like everything Nkechi had been reduced to in 18 months of marriage. Not a wife, not a person. Property. Seo Jun's expression went terrifyingly still. Property, he repeated, slow lie. He looked at Nkechi, then back at the mercenary pinned beneath his foot. Tell your employer something for me. He leaned close, whispered so meaning in Korean that Nkechi could not hear. Whatever he said, it drained the colour from the mercenary's face. The defiance vanished, only terror remained. Seo Jun's guards appeared, dragging a L3 mercenary away into the night. Madame Cha was being helped to her feet by another staff member, shaken but alive, already insisting she was fine. Nkechi stood in the middle of the wreckage, glass crunching bean at her feet. Here Rat still L racing, mind still trying to process as everything that had happened. Dong-hoon had sent men to take her back, to drag her back to that ant house prison, to make her pay for daring to leave. And Seo Jun had stopped them. She looked at him, this dangerous man with blood on his hands, a ND fire in his eyes. What did you tell him? She asked. The mercenary. What did you say? Seo Jun met her gaze. I told him that Shin Dong-hoon has just started a war he cannot win, and that by this time next week, everything he has ever built will be ash. Nkechi shivered, not from fear, from something else entirely. Whatever happened next, she was ready. The morning sun poured through the windows of Seo Jun's study. Nkechi sat across from him, a cup of tea cooling in their hands. The events of the night before felt like a fever dream. Shattered glass masked me in violence and rescue and whispered threats. But this was real. All of it as real. And now she needed to understand what came next. Ask your Christians, Seo Jun's aide. He looked tired, dark circles under his eyes, but his voice was steer-die, patient. Who are you? She had asked before, but now as he needed the full truth. Really, all of it. He was quiet for a moment, gathering words. My family has controlled the underground economy of South Korea for 3 generations. We are not criminals in the way MOS people understand. We do not sell drugs. We do not traffic people. We deal in power. Information, influency. What does that mean? It means that when corporations need leverage against competitors, they come to us. When politicians need PR oblems to disappear, they come to US. When the law fails to deliver justice, people seek us out. Nkechi processed this. You operate outside the law. Taily Law W is built to protect men like Dong-hoon. Seo Jun's VE voice hardened. Rich men, powerful men, men who beat their wives and buy their way out of consequences. We exist because the system is broken. And men like you fix it. Men like me make sure the Dong-hoons of the world eventually pay. He reached into his desk and pulled out a thick fold S lid it across to her. Open it. Nkechi lifted the cover. Document S. Photographs, bank statements, years of evidence, meticulously organised. Financial fraud at Shinwoo Pharmaceuticals, Seo-jun explained. Bribes to government anti-officials. Falsified drug trials that killed 12 patients. Money laundered through shell companies in Singapore and the Cayman Islands. She turned the pages. More documents, more proof. Then she reached the photograph HS, women, 4 of them, bruised FACCs, split lips, black eyes, medical records detailing broken bones and internal bleeding and injuries that matched her own. He has done this before, she whispered, all of them broken by him, all of them paid off or threatened into silence. Seo-jun's V.E. Ois W as heavy. My S. Ister was not the first. You were not the E last. But you are the first one who are and Nkechi stared at the photographs. These women who had suffered like her, who had been trapped like her, who had been silenced while Dong-hoon continued destroying lives. Why are you showing me this? Because you have a choice. Seo-jun leaned forward. Thus is evidence is enough to destroy him, his company, his family's reputation, his freedom. I have been building this case for 5 years, waiting for the right moment. And now I am giving it to you. His eyes held hers. You can take this folder, disappear, start a new life somewhere far from here. I will make sure you are protected. You will never have to think about Shin Dong-hoon again. Or Wyo can help me finish him. Stand in front of cameras, tell the world what he did to you. What he did to all of them. He paused. The choice is yours, Nkechi. It has always been yours. She looked at the folder in her handies. The weight of it, the power. All her life she had been told to stay quiet, to endure, to make it work. Grandma Ruth's voice echoing in her head. Marriage is not about perfect. It is about staying. But staying had almost killed her. Staying had killed her baby. Staying had turned her into a ghost in her own body. She thought about Seo-yeon. Walking into the Han River because no one believed her, because the man who destroyed her faced no consequences. She thought about the women in these photographs, their silent screams, their buried pain. She thought about herself. Bleeding on a bathroom floor or apologising for existing, believing she deserved every blow, and no more. I will do it. Her voice did not shake. I will stand in front of those cameras. I will tell everyone what he is, and I will make sure he never hurts anyone again. Seo-jun studied her. Something shifted in his expression. Pride, maybe. Admiration. You understand what this means. Dong-hoon's family is powerful. They have connections in government, in MEDIA, in LAW enforcement. There will be pushback, threats, attempts to discredit you. They will call you a liar, a gold digger, a crazy woman seeking attention. I understand. You will have to relive everything, every blow, every scar, every moment you wanted to die but kept breathing instead. Cameras will capture your pain. Strangers will judge your tears. I know. And you still want to do this? Nkechi stood. The folder clutched against her chest like armour, like the weapon it was. For 18 months that man made me feel worthless. He made me believe I was nothing. He took my confidence, my career, my friends, my child. Her voice strengthened W with every word. He took everything from me except one thing, my voice. And he does not get to take that too. Seo-jun rose from his chair, extended his hand across the desk. She too, Kai T. They shook firmly. Partners, equals. Two people united against a common enemy. Then we do this together, he said. Together. He almost smiled, that rare expression that transformed his face from cold to something approaching warmth, so mything human beneath all that sea on troll. There is one more thing you should know. He released her hand but held her gaze. The press conference is scheduled for tomorrow at the Seoul Grand Hyatt. Every major network in Korea will be there. International press too. Dong-hoon thinks it is a routine business announcement for Shinwoo Pharmaceuticals, AQ Quarterly Earnings Report. A cold smile crossed his face, the smile of a man who had been waiting 5 years for this moment. He has no idea you will be the one standing at that podium, no idea that his entire world is about to collapse. The Seoul Grand Hyatt gleamed like a palace. Crystal chandeliers hung from vaulted ceilings. Flower arrangement teas worth more than most people's monthly rent adorned every surface. 300 journalists filled the ballroom, cameras ready, microphones poised. They were expecting a pharmaceutical announcement, something boring about quarterly earnings or new drug tea-reels. They were about to get something much bigger. Nkechi stood behind the stage, hidden by heavy curtains. Her heart pounded so hard she could feel it in her throat. Her palms were slick with sweat. She had chosen her outfit deliberately. An emerald green dress that hugged her curves. Simple, elegant, powerful. Green for new beginnings. Green for hope. She looked nothing like the crying woman who had fell at the Shinwoo building 2 weeks ago. That woman was gone. The woman standing here now was ready to fight. Seo-jun appeared beside her. Are you ready? No. She managed a shaky smile. But I am doing it anyway. That is what courage looks like. He adjusted the collar of his jacket. I will be in the audience. If anything goes wrong, my men will handle it. And if everything goes right, his eyes softened, then you will have your J. Eustace, and 5 women will finally be heard. She took a deep breath, nodded, stepped toward the stage entrance. The curtains parted. She walked into the light. The first person she saw was Dong-hoon. He stood near the stage, surrounded by executives in expensive suits, shaking hands like a king, greeting G-subjects. He was laughing, relaxed, confident. He had no idea what was coming. Then his eyes found her across the crowded room. His smile froze. For a moment, neither of them moved. The entire ballroom seemed to hold its breath. Then Nkechi started walking G. Her heels clicked against the marbled floor. Every step deliberate, every step a statement. Dong-hoon's FHA shifted from shock to confusion to something like fear. Nkechi? His voice cracked. What are you doing here? She did not answer. She walked past him, climbed the steps to the stage, took the microphone from the podium. 300 cameras turned toward her. F lashes explode D like lightning. MY name is Nkechi Okonkwo. Her voice carried through the silent room, clear, steady, unbearable. For 18 months, I was married to Shindon Ji-hoon, the man standing in the front row, the golden son of Seoul's elite. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Journalists leaned forward. Cameras zoomed in. During those 18 months, he beat me, regularly, systematically. He beat me so severely that 2 weeks ago I lost our unborn child. Gasps echoed through the ballroom. Dong-hoon lunged toward the stage, but 2 men in dark suits materialized from the crowd, BL ocking his path. Nkechi, stop this! His voice was desperate now. Pathetic. You do not know what you are doing. I know exactly what I am doing. She pulled the folder from the podium. I am telling the truth, something you never all owed me to D.O. She opened the F folder, held up documents. Shin Dong-hoon has been laundering money through Shur Enwao Pharmaceuticals for 8 years. He has bribed government officials, falsified clinical trials that cost 12 patients the IR lives. She pressed a button. The screen behind her lit up with evidence, bank statements, emails, internal memos. The room erupted, journalists shouting questions, cameras flashing, chaos. Nkechi waited for the Ois to settle. And I am not his first victim. She held up the photographs. I am his fifth. 4 other women came before me, 4 women who were beaten, threatened, and paid to stay silent. The photographs appeared on the screens, bruised faces, medical records, settlement agreements. The crowd's murmur became a roar. Dong Gi-hoon's father rose from the front row. For one moment, Nkechi thought he would defend his son, call her a liar, threaten lawsuits. Instead, he straightened his jacket, looked at his son with something like disgust, and walked out. The cameras captured every step, the exact moment a father abandoned his son to the wolves. Police officers entered from both sides of the ballroom, moved toward Dong-hoon with handcuffs ready. No. Dong-hoon backed away. No, you cannot do this. Do you know who I am? Do you know who my family is? The officers did not care. They seized his arms, snapped cuffs around his wrists. Nkechi! His voice broke. Tears streamed down his face. 18 months of a bus, and now he was crying. Please, I love you. I can change. I swear I can Chang'e. Nkechi stepped down from the stage, walked toward him slow, W-ly. The crowd parted to let her through. She stopped close enough that only he could hear. You had 1,000 chances to change. He arvo ice was ice. Every time you hit me, every time you apologized, every time you brought flowers and promises, 1,000 chankes, Don Gi-hoon. She leaned closer. You chose violence every single time. Shai stepped back. Now I am choosing G myself. The officers dragged him towards the XET. He was still screaming her name when the doors closed behind him. Nkechi stood in the centre of the ballroom, cameras still flashing, journalists still shouting. Boo T, she heard none of IT. For T, first time in 2 years. She took a breath that did not hurt. The crowd parted as she were looked toward the exit. He did not answer questions, did not acknowledge the reporters calling her name. Seoju-N was waiting by the door. Hands in his pockets, expression unreadable, but his eyes were warm. It is done, she said. It is done. They stood there for a moment, the sea chaos behind them, the unknown ahead. W hat now? She is scared. He considered the question. Whatever you want, you are free, Nkechi. You can go anywhere, do anything. I will make sure you are protected wherever you end up. And if I do you want to stay? The question hung between the ye. His expression shifted. The ice melted. Jay ussed a little. Then you stay, for as long as you want, no strings, no obligations, just possibility. Nkechi looked at him, this dangerous, beautiful, haunted man who had saved her when no one else would, who had given her the power to save herself. She did not care now what the future held. Did not know if what she felt you as girl, attitude or attraction or something deeper. But he, or the first time in years, she went to find out. She slipped a hand into his. Possibility sounds good. His fingers closed around hers, warm, steady, safe. They walked out together, into the soul night, into the unknown, into a future neither of them expected, but both of them finally deserved. Nkechi's story does not end here. She escaped, she survived, she won, but Dong-hoon has powerful friends, people who do not forgive easily, people who believe in revenge, and some of them are not ready to let this go. If you want to know what happened S next, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that notification bell so you do not miss part 2 when it drops. Thithi is a story about survival, about fighting back, about refusing to be silenced, and it is only just beginning. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that it is never too late to leave. Drop a comment below telling us your T-Horts. Your word S might inspire someone else who is struggling right now. Thank you for watching. Thank you for caring. Thank you for being part of this journey. Until next time, stay strong, stay safe, and never forget your woo-oth.